Alrighty. Weekly outlook. Sold off quite a bit Friday. That's what we'll begin with. Essentially traded back into the balance, really. Did we really leave the balance? No. I mean, we're in a balance since the election, really. Um, you wicked the high, failed. NQ didn't quite wick the high, but or come up to a new all-time high. But for the most part, traded back into value. Uh, NQ most recent value as well here. So now the question, okay, do you get a full traversal of, you know, this large balance since the election, or do we stay within the bulk of value, or where we spent the most volume time trading, right? Which would be sort of in this middle distribution here, right? If we were to divvy this up into, although it's arguably one big distribution, you could sort of divvy this up as, or, sort of mark this off as the main one, right? Where we've spent the most time trading at least the last 3 weeks. And then seeing a couple overextensions past it to some prior smaller areas of value and bouncing back into the main one. So the question now is like, do we stay within this or do we see a bit lower takeout? Let's say the port low from Friday, see that little bit of an overextension and pop back in, or does that failure lead us to a breakdown towards the lower extremes, right? Whether it be these last couple pivot or last pivot low here, uh, or quite a ways down back towards, sort of this extreme, this other pivot down here. Right? We have a anchored VWAP, at least the last major pivot low, curling up to here. You have so many different scenarios. We'll go level to level. We'll sort of mark off the most important ones. Still have this gap unfilled down here. You got the 2025 open right here. Nothing major just below this poor low. Nothing huge up above except for the 6100, which I have marked off on the TPO. So if we go into this, you'll see a couple of these levels a little more clearly. Right, poor low down here. Um, I'd like to see this get swept, right? Whether it happens ETH or RTH, I would really, really like to see this get swept. Um, Up here, I don't, as a bull, as a buyer, I don't feel too confident being long up into these levels up here or even up here. Like, if we get over these 70s, like, can I look to get long? Sure. Not that confident. I'd really, really love to see these poor lows get taken out on both. Okay, ES and NQ. So that's where I'm at right now. So pretty undecided as to what I want to do immediately. I haven't traded this ETH, so missed that. But if we do go lower in that preferred scenario, you got a bit of a shelf at 15, which has been an inflection point in the past. Below that, you got this 90 sort of down at these singles we've yet to fill. And you got the shelf from this prior little area of balance, where the bulk of that sits at 90, right? Or starts at 90 rather. You got the 2025 open here, and then really nothing below that, all the way down to the gap fill. Okay, so those would be like your immediate levels lower. If you're a seller, you probably want to look to be reloading up into these singles where that, where this point of control is of this 3 week almost little balance area here, right? Before we did the failed breakout. So that's a point of control there. Arguably, we can come in and say that's where the bulk of it's being spent trading up here, 6100 down to like 6070. So I would expect sellers to look to step in here if we do trade up into 70 without, taking out these lows here first. You got poor low there, relatively weak low, right? You got a pivot low, pivot low, pivot low. So relatively weak. I'd like to see it get swept at least a little bit, and have it reclaim Friday's range before looking to get long. If that's the case, yeah, I'm watching Friday's lows for that trigger. Okay, to get long back up into 6100, potentially even new highs. Right, 6100 would be that main target for that idea. Yeah, I would really, really like to see us get lower. I don't feel confident in bulls until we can at least get over 72. But even then, I'd feel much more comfortable if we can get over 6100, right? To try to at least take it up to 30. Ideally a new high. So that's where I'm at. I really need this low to get taken out. Otherwise, it's gonna be a little hard for me to navigate at least the early part of the week, unless we get over some levels, and meaning I'll miss a decent amount of the move. But yeah, I would really like to see lower, at least to 15. Maybe we see down to 90. Below 90, you'd be taking out the last somewhat relevant pivot low. So I'd be cautious of that, right? In that case, I think you go fill the gap, potentially even go lower, maybe go test this low and see what we do there. NQ, pretty similar situation in that you traded back into where the bulk of your value is being traded, although they barely kind of traded into that range. Right, if we just do profile there, this is where the bulk of at least the last 3-4 weeks has been trading, kind of traded into that, sitting right, came right into the middle of that. Now if we throw profile on here, you can see that the bulk of it's being traded arguably here, right? So, you know, until we can get some more MGI above 850s, 815s, really don't feel comfortable getting into longs, you know, prior to that low getting swept and cleaned up a bit. So I know right now you're currently trading, or you popped a little higher at the open. You know, pop back up to this 800 level, right? Sort of got faded a bit, traded back down to the open, and kind of holding for now. But I'd really, really like to see this. You know, markets typically do not tend to bottom on Fridays, so you know, that's a little bit of added confluence there. And I just don't like seeing poor lows. I want to see some excess being built at lows, but you know, mean set of pretty large set of singles up there. All right, big levels at least above us being this 22,000, 020 up to 040. All right, larger shelf on the composite. You got Friday's singles there. You got Thursday's little shelf there as well. You know, that's sort of where that change happened and sort of found the offers during D&E period on that sell-off. Lower, you sort of got this point of control, or not point of control, this high volume node of these last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, right there at 588. Also in the composite, at least the 2025 composite, it's sort of there. Although you could argue that this, you know, it really just looks like one big chunk here, even if you look at the larger composite. So, you know, I'm not gonna work with each one of these little shelves. I don't think it's worth it. I think you just pick one, and I'm choosing the one that sort of that we've seen most recently, being this one, this high volume node there, at least right in the middle of it. Otherwise, I think we trade down into the 420s, 440s if we're not gonna somehow bid off of that. You know, and the main target for downside is probably gonna be this 180, 230s, 240. I know we've been watching this level for quite some time. It's become a relatively weak level at this point. So I each time we test it, it's getting weaker and weaker. You know, maybe you get an intraday pop or something off of it, but I don't expect a huge pivot to be made, you know, on another test there. Maybe you do. I mean, I'm not gonna be limit long there, but I will be watching whenever we do trade down there. Okay, you know, below that you got one big level there, at least the high volume node there at like 2600, right? If we get acceptance back below this 21 180s, 21 240s, that'll be your next big target down, right where this anchored view up, at least from where the last major pivot low sits. You know, let's mark off the 2025 open because I think that's relevant. I think it's there, right? Yeah, the RTH opened. And then of course this high volume node down at 20,000, and the shelf 2260s, right? And just go level to level at that point. Now up above, you know, with this shelf here on the composite, I feel a little more comfortable positioning long if we can, make some MGI up here, spend some time trading in this range. It looks tempting, right, for maybe potentially a move back up to sort of where we consolidated before falling off the cliff on Friday. If we're looking at strictly the profile, strictly the composite, if we're above 800s, I'm shooting for this 22,000, right? But with this, it becomes a little tougher to just say straight up, I'm gonna only target this. I think you have to be cautious of these singles and this level 970s up here. If we can go lower, trade back into Friday's range, looks great to sit in longs. But as of right now, I do not feel comfortable in longs whatsoever, right, until we can prove ourselves, or until the chart tells us otherwise. So if we don't take out the low, like, it might be a slow Monday for me, or slow Tuesday, who knows. Kind of hell bent on seeing that low get taken. Sometimes, like, that's not the best way to approach things. But sometimes like that gut feeling is always right. For example, like, I was short up against this well, actually on both. Had some poor lows in the ES that I really did not like seeing. Right back here, and finally took it out, right, and made the leg lower. But I'd really like to see these lows get taken. Anyway, the notion will sort of have these levels a little bit more clearly. RTY really not looking for anything here. YM not looking for anything here. Crude made some nice excess here overnight. I think it's got a couple more sessions where we kind of backfill the structure from Friday's sell-off. I missed a really great up. I had limit sells at 73.15 and came one tick from filling. And I got greedy and said, let's move it up a little bit, because we didn't fill right then and there, and I kind of took my eye off it and just went lower. But back into this I volume node here, which was like the main target, right? And we were long off it once here. Missed a second pop off of it. But I do still think it's going down to 68. So if we can backfill the structures, this is what I'll be working with. I just want to see time spent below, volume spent below, or some offers back into it. Right? Ideally, some offers, pull back into it to short this back down to 68s. So yeah, that's where I'm at this week. So potentially slow to start the week. Who knows? Looks like you're trailing higher here, which I don't necessarily love. Because well, we'll be patient come RTH Monday. We'll see what happens. I'd really prefer to sell. If not, it's okay. I'll personally wait for a lot higher, or some MGI above 850 on NQ before looking to get involved long. Gonna be pretty quick to take profits in this case. Well, not quick in that 10 20 points, but more so, I'm not long here. And you have to understand this when I'm looking at levels and sort of how I change my bias. If I'm really bullish, I'm not setting trims nearby. I'm setting my targets far, and I'm leaving them there. In this scenario, not necessarily bullish with this sell on Friday. On ES, it's a little worse. NQ, I feel a little more confident only because of the shelf on the composite, right? But I'm still looking for, let's say I am long 810s, 800s. I'm looking for cleanup of this set of singles, maybe this set of singles. Main target would be, not main, but last target would be this 22,000. That's sort of the way I approach things. So, like for example, if I know I shouldn't be bullish on this day, on this sell on ES, right? But as a perma bull, and my ability to sort of bottom tick things, I can have decent entries. We did pretty well for only really going long. Manage risk pretty okay. But this is that case where, like, okay, I really should not be too bullish. I need to be taking profits quick and moving my stops as fast as I can. All right, so that's why these two did well. We got great locations, risked about 3 points, did okay. All right, some of them didn't work, but that's just you know part of the game. So I'm gonna have that mentality until we see some more sessions and can put together some more MGI. But that's where I'm at right now. So hope you all have a great week.